Hello everyone, it's me again. It's Saturday. Sitting here reading up on my book. Sitting here reading up on it. Just brushing through it. Look, I tried to tell you. Remember when I was telling you guys that Spider-Man don't fit? Remember when I was telling you guys that Spider-Man didn't fit with the Avengers because he was never part of the original. Never was a part of the Avengers. Remember I told you that the only reason why Sony's adding Spider-Man to the Avengers is because they don't have Marvel Ultimate Alliance. And remember me telling you guys that Disney made a huge mistake putting Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 on the Switch when it should have been on the Xbox One, PS4, Xbox Series X, PS5, so the developers won't feel like they're being held back, so now they can add what they need to add and improve the infrastructure of the game, right? Remember that? Okay. I try to tell you guys that Spider-Man don't fit. And listen to this. But this is dealing with the MCU. It says here, the MCU will be better off without Spider-Man. Spider-Man don't fit in every game. Okay? He didn't even fit in the movie to tell you the truth. He didn't fit in the movie. You know, he didn't fit. The movie was off. I would say the last MCU movie was off. You know, it needed some more work. So just taking Spider-Man and adding him to anything just doesn't work, man. You can't force something that's not there. So anyway, it says here the MCU will be better off without Spider-Man. It says as much as fans love Spider-Man long term, the MCU might be better off focusing on other characters instead of him. So basically, the entire Marvel universe does not evolve around Spider-Man. That's what they're saying in a nutshell. But anyway, it says here Peter Parker is a great character, and Spider-Man is one of the most beloved comic properties in the world. And yet, even if Sony wanted to extend the deal they currently have with Marvel, meaning the MCU could continue to use Spider-Man, Marvel might just be better off focusing elsewhere for now. This is especially true considering the shaky ground Marvel is on with Sony to begin with. There's no certainty that the deal in place, which only runs for Spider-Man, No Way Home, and a future unnamed MCU team-up, will be renewed. If the third Spider-Man movie is a success, as expected, and the Sony cinematic universe of Spider-Man related properties continue to grow, they have no real reason to hitch their most famous character to the MCU wagon after all. Then it says here, but Marvel does not have to rely on them doing so. Though Spider-Man is a popular character, and Marvel would love to keep the door open to future appearance, especially in team-centric movies like a possible future Avengers with a different lineup, they be smart to bet on other lesser-known heroes to carry the MCU going forward. That's how this whole thing started after all. It says here, Iron Man wasn't exactly anyone's favorite or even a well-known superhero when Marvel chose the character to kick off the Marvel Cinematic Universe. First of all, that statement is false. There's plenty of Iron Man fans. Okay? Plenty of them. Excuse me for a minute. Anyway, it says, in fact, the only reason Tony Stark was the hero that started it all was because he had the coolest toys. It's been widely reported that the decision to produce an Iron Man movie before, let's say, a Captain America one, came down to which superhero action figure would sell better. Let me tell you something. sales ain't the end all. Phil Spencer said it best. Sales ain't the end all be all to video games, and sales ain't the end all be all to movies, okay, or action figures or whatever. So if the Iron Man fans demand that they want a movie for Iron Man, they can get it, okay. All they gotta do is talk to the higher ups. So this notion that there's not a lot of Iron Man fans is ridiculous, okay? Because there's plenty of Iron Man fans. There's plenty of Hulk fans. There's plenty of Hawkeye fans. There's plenty of Captain America fans. There's plenty of Silver Surfer, Vision, anyone in the Marvel universe. There's plenty. For every superhero and villains that's in the Marvel universe, there's a fan base for each character. So this notion that Iron Man isn't popular is crazy. But anyway, let me continue. It says, then Robert Downey Jr. stepped into the role of Tony Stark, and an iconic performance or two later, Marvel had an entire universe in its hand, one that allowed it to introduce its most well-known characters with much less risk. But even with the heroes that made the MCU what it was for the first 10 years, now retired, Marvel doesn't have to rely on Spider-Man to shoulder the burden of the MCU. Yeah, what that means is that they got plenty of characters that don't get the spotlight, that need to be in the spotlight. So the entire Marvel universe does not evolve around Spider-Man. Okay, Spider-Man is just one character. There's plenty of other characters in the Marvel universe that Disney can use. But anyway, it says it doesn't even have to pull off the big guns to compete yet, though you could argue they are, as another Fantastic Four reboot is on the way, helmed by Spider-Man director John Watts. The biggest card on Marvel's deck at this point, however, is the X-Men, and they don't even have to play that anytime soon. They can focus on building up lesser known names secured in the knowledge than whenever they decide to tackle mutants that's likely to be a success. And it says here yeah, because I mean they got what? They got so many characters that don't get the spotlight. You could say what? The Wildcats? You could say what? X-Force? Marvel got so many characters, man. Spider-Man is just like less than 1% of that, less than 1% of the Marvel character roster. They got so many characters that don't get the spotlight, that need their own TV show, need their own cartoon, need their own movie. So Spider-Man, to me, Spider-Man is overrated. In a nutshell, Spider-Man is overrated. But anyway, says here, there are indications Marvel might at least be planning on this contingency. Kate Bishop, who will star in Hawkeye, Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, and Riri Williams, Ironheart, are getting their own Disney Plus series. Speedrun and Weekend were introduced in WandaVision, and though they were seemingly erased in the final episode, the last after credits scene in the show left their possible return open. Plus, America Chavez, aka Miss America, is said to be introduced in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Then it says here again, all these characters would be a good place to start if the MCU wants to start. No, let me say that again. All these characters would be a place to start if the MCU want to shift focus away from the still young, but at this point, almost veteran Peter Parker, a character that doesn't belong to them and which they don't control, but there aren't but these aren't the only characters the MCU could introduce. Like I said, X-Force. Anyway, there are still some interesting names that have yet to be touched, and which could make for some fun storyline going forward. And it says here, take Nova for example. Considering the Nova Corp have already been introduced into the MCU on the Guardians of the Galaxy, Richard Rider could be an interesting way to further the galactic storyline in a universe that has still mostly stayed Earthbound despite the many possibilities. In fact, the character could easily be brought into Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and then transition into his own movie forward. Another good possibility would be Namor. Though not at all obscure, Namor is probably one of the biggest Marvel comic books name yet to appear on the MCU, and his water-based superpowers would make for a very different story than the ones fans have seen so far. Let's also remember that Namor, the Prince of Atlantis, has already been teased in the MCU. In Iron Man 2, a shield map had Atlantis clearly marked. And it says here, if they want to, with smaller characters, there are two female heroes who could be introduced first. The Squirrel Girl, a character that fits the comedic inclination of the MCU to a T, and one could appeal to a younger audience, and Elsa Bloodstone, a fairly recent comic book character who is basically the Buffy the Vampire Slayer of the Marvel Universe. Something the MCU is definitely interested in exploring as they greenlit a Blade reboot. Either way, the possibilities are endless, and as much as fans love Spider-Man, the MCU doesn't really need him. Facts. Okay? Because the entire Marvel Universe does not evolve around Spider-Man. They were trying to push it to make it seem like Spider-Man is the only, superhero? Please. Come on, man. Anyway, it's a good thing wait a minute, let me read that again. It is a good thing they don't too, because they might not get to keep him for as long as they would have liked. But that does not mean the MCU doesn't have some really interesting characters that's with some time and good writings could become fan favorites for years to come. And I think that's that. The entire Marvel Universe doesn't evolve around Spider-Man. Okay? There's plenty of superheroes, plenty of villains, or plenty of superheroes that are helpers that can get their shine. Okay? Spider-Man is overrated, and like I was trying to tell people before, he didn't fit with the Avengers. He never did, because he was never part of the crew. When you went to the arcades back in the early 90s, mid 90s, early 2000s, there was a game called Captain America and the Avengers. It was never It was never Spider-Man and the Avengers. It was Captain America and the Avengers. And you had Captain America, Hawkeye, Vision, Submariner, and Hawkeye, Iron Man, Captain America, Submariner, and Vision. Those were the main five. And then you could have had other superheroes that make up the Avengers. But Spider-Man was never part of the original crew. He never was. Spider-Man had his own game. It was always Spider-Man and the Sinister Six, Spider-Man and somebody. But he was never part of the Avengers. So when I was trying to tell you guys that Spider-Man don't fit, he never fit. but he does fit with the Marvel Ultimate Alliance crew because he was a part of that crew. But as far as the Avengers go, he was never part of the Avengers, you know. And when it came to the movie, you know, he didn't even fit in that because I even got lost. I think like the first like 45 minutes of the last Marvel movie they did, I was sitting there like, what? And I just got lost. So when he was in it, I didn't see how he fit with those guys, you know. It's like they were trying to force him into something that he didn't belong. So Spider-Man, Spider-Man is good for like his own movies and his own games, or part of the Marvel Ultimate Alliance. But the MCU, nah, they don't need him. They don't need him. You know what I'm saying? They don't need him. There's plenty of superheroes that don't get the spotlight, that need the spotlight. Okay, there's plenty of superheroes in the Marvel universe. You know, that need to get their shine, that need to get the spotlight. You know, so Marvel really don't. In a nutshell, Marvel. Disney really don't. They really don't need them. They really don't. They really don't. You know what I mean? Sony played this. Sony played their hands. You know, Sony played their hands. You know, they played their hands. So you want to keep Spider-Man to yourself? Fine. We don't need him. We got other superheroes we can use. Kick rocks. You know what I'm saying? We don't need him. You know, so that's what Disney's approach should have been. You know, like, we don't need him. Okay, you want to keep Spider-Man to yourself? You want to play this? You want to pull this so-called power move? Okay, fine. We don't need Spider-Man. You can keep him. Okay, we don't need him. We got plenty of superheroes. We got plenty of superheroes that we have that we can use, and that's what they should have. That's how they should have approached it from the very beginning. You know, it's just like the entire DC universe doesn't just evolve around Superman or Batman. There's plenty of DC superheroes and villains that need their time and their spotlight and their shine, man. So the Marvel universe and the DC universe just does not evolve around one character, you know. I mean, yeah, sure, Superman is strong. Yeah, don't get me wrong, Superman, Man of Steel. Don't get me wrong, but there's other superheroes out there who got their own stories that need to get some light. You know, so yeah. The Marvel and the DC universe does not evolve just around one character, man. It doesn't, and it shouldn't be. And I'm glad Disney took this stance, like we don't need you, too. Like, we don't need you. Oh, Sony, you want your Spider-Man? You can keep him. We don't need him. That's how they should have. That's how they should have approached it. You know, like if we're talking about. If you're talking about you don't have no Iron Man fans, what? You know how many Iron Man fans there are? Oh, it was based off who sell the most. Please. That's why that's why I don't get caught up in favoritism, man. Can't stand it. You know what I'm saying? Favorite character, favorite this. Nonsense. You know, put them in there. So the Marvel universe does not evolve around Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying? Marvel got so many characters they can use, so many villains, you know, so many. I mean, think of all the comic books that Marvel have, and how many superheroes and got their own stories and stuff. Come on, man. Marvel got so many characters, man. They really don't need them. They don't need Spider-Man. They really don't. Okay. If Sony wants Spider-Man, they can keep him. That's my take on the whole thing. Like, you can keep your Spider-Man. We got other heroes we can use. Okay? So yeah. Spider-Man ain't the most important superhero, man. Okay? Anyway, I'm gonna leave a link in the description box with this article so y'all can look at it. But nice talking to you people again. Chris. Still a Star Wars and Star Trek thing. The Borg, the dark side. I'm gone. Peace.